mean, they do call it Super Wild Card Weekend for a reason. Goodness gracious. It's January 11th. Welcome inside the channel. 8:06 Eastern Standard Time here in the evening hours as we get ready for one more wild card game. I guess technically that's not true because Pittsburgh and Houston, we got football on Monday tomorrow night as well. But up until now, goodness gracious, leading into Patriots Chargers. How interesting is it? How unique is it? How lucky, maybe, is it as a Ravens fan, you out there, assuming that you're watching, you have allegiances to Baltimore. You just kind of get to sit back and watch several of these candidates, like a Robert Saleh, like a Jesse Minter tonight, make their case potentially to be the next head coach, not just in Baltimore. A lot of these guys have several interviews lined up from around the league, and my goodness, is it something else? Anybody who's charting my crutch words tonight, it's not nuance. It's goodness gracious. So go ahead, Chef Trez, wherever you are, mark that accordingly on your bulletin board. Guys, thanks for being with me tonight. Sarah returns to the vault tomorrow. And, of course, we got a lot to discuss over the next 60 minutes. Maybe we'll go north of that. The guest lines are open. It's brought to you by my friends at Preston Automotive Group and ZipRecruiter. And goodness, oh, man, are you serious? Look at this. All of these games have been fantastic watches thus far, including what we just saw wrap up and finalize in Philadelphia just a short while ago as Robert Saleh's defense totally undermanned. No Fred Warner, no Nick Bosa. On the offensive side of the ball, they lose George Kittle going down mid-game, and yet they find a way to beat the Philadelphia Eagles, the reigning Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles, sending them into what I'm sure will be a loud, tumultuous offseason, given the polarizing figure that not only is Jalen, but Nick Sirianni as well. Anyway, look, Robert Saleh's defense. You want somebody, don't you want somebody leading your program whose players play like that? That's game-changing stuff right there. And I'm of the belief, as I've told you now for days on end since this search became a thing on Tuesday night, that I think a compelling candidate at the top of a bunch of teams' list is a retread in Robert Saleh. And perhaps he'll get an opportunity to do exactly that, be a retread and earn one of these head coach vacancies in the coming days, coming weeks. So San Francisco beats Philadelphia. They're on to the divisional round, are the 49ers. How about earlier in Jacksonville? Thanks to Tre'Davious White, Buffalo hangs on to beat Jacksonville at their place in Duval. Yesterday, a couple ridiculous games, including the nightcapper in Chicago, a snow flurry Chicago, by the way. Green Bay in heartbreaking fashion falls to Caleb Williams and the Bears. How about that cold post-game handshake between Ben Johnson and LaFleur? Has LaFleur coached his last game in Green Bay? That remains to be seen. Has Nick Sirianni coached his last game in Philadelphia? That remains to be seen. But if I'm John Harbaugh's camp right now, I'm just kind of hanging back and being like, look, sure, maybe the most attractive job out there is the New York Giants. But if Green Bay and or Philadelphia open up, now there's a conversation to be had. And of course, the Rams hang on. And that is what tonight's show will be about, because the Sean McVay tree, as those of you know who follow the game from 1,000 feet up and you follow all 32 teams, you know damn well that the Sean McVay coaching tree is no joke. The track record is proven. It is legit. And there's a reason why his staff, what feels like every other year, is poached and highly sought after. And this season could be no exception. They hang on to beat the Panthers in Carolina, 34-31. Stafford is Stafford. Puka Nacua is a savage. And while that defense, of course, and one of the candidates that the Ravens are rumored and reported to now be interested in is their defensive coordinator. So while 31 points, sure, you're looking at that being like, that's not the most attractive thing ever in terms of defense. But let's be honest, it's a different beast playing in January. So appreciate you guys for being with me tonight. Super chats are already pouring in. The guest line is hot as well. Do you think I've slept this week? I did. Yesterday, I collapsed, to be quite honest with you. Compensatory Prick says, Next week's Seahawks versus Niners game could decide the Ravens' future for the next decade plus. Kubiak versus Saleh. Winner gets the Ravens gig. Can't wait. And it's notable, right? Now that the wild card weekend, at least by tomorrow night, will be over and in the rear view, some of these candidates who coached this weekend, including Jesse Minter tonight as the defensive coordinator for Jim Harbaugh and the Chargers, can now be spoken to, can now be interviewed once we get to next week. So keep that in mind in terms of some of the rule process and the rules that are the guidelines, I should say, when it comes to hiring cycles. Appreciate Compensatory Prick for getting us started. Your name cracks me up, by the way, in the super chat category. We will get to the guest lines in just a bit. I do have an opening monologue to share with you about the Sean McVay tree and perhaps the Ravens' interest in said tree. Garrett Family Aquatic says, give us Robert Saleh. Look what his depleted defense just did to Philadelphia. And you're not kidding, Garrett. I mean, come on. No Bosa, no Fred Warner. There's a lot to like there. He's a fiery coach. He's got previous experience. And as we talked about throughout the week, I get it. There's a negative connotation that is attached, some of which is deserving, right? Some of which is based on previous track records. I get it. There's a negative connotation that comes with the concept of retreads. But man, this is that moment where ultimately, I think if I'm a member of the Ravens fan base, it's time to entrust, not that you haven't before, but it's time to entrust Steve Bisciotti. He made his living off of what he's about to do in the coming weeks, and that is make a consequential decision that could very well shape, as Compensatory wrote, the Ravens' future for the next decade plus. And that brings us to the Sean McVay tree. According to Albert Breer, NFL Insider, 2 more interview requests have either been submitted or will be submitted for a couple of Sean McVay's assistants. One of them, certainly a recognizable last name, Chris Shula, grandson of the great Don Shula. Chris is 39 years old. He'll turn 40 next month on February 5th, and he has served as Sean McVay's defensive coordinator. And we got a good look at him. Boy, Cooper Rush certainly did earlier this season in the regular season when LA came to Baltimore. We'll revisit that in just a bit. But he's been calling plays under Sean for the last couple seasons. The guy on the right-hand side of the graphic is Nate Scheelhaus. Yes, I've had time to go work on the pronunciation guide. Nate is one of those up-and-coming young players. He was a former player, young coaches who has a very, very bright future. He's just 35 years young. He'll turn 36 in November, and he's served as Sean McVay's pass game coordinator. Just finished up his first regular season in that role. Prior to that, he was an offensive assistant and passing game specialist. You might remember him from his career at Illinois, lighting it up as the quarterback there. So these are your 2 new candidates. Again, this does not include, notably, Jesse Minter, who's the Chargers defensive coordinator. Do not be surprised if that official interview request and interview comes in at some point early this week on the backside, of course, of tonight's game, which is most important for him, for the Chargers organization. And that obviously will be played in New England coming up in just 5 short minutes. I actually have to switch the channel to NBC. I think it's on NBC tonight, right? So I'll do that in just a bit. So time to learn a little bit about the Sean McVay tree first and foremost, because maybe in passing you think, man, yeah, Sean McVay tree. Like, of course, successful, highly sought after, and an annual occurrence. Guys, it's a lot more than that. First of all, Sean himself is on a Hall of Fame trajectory. Perhaps he's already a Hall of Fame coach, and JB Long gives you some pretty good context as to why that's the case. He just concluded his 9th NFL regular season with 92 wins, and that matches the late Hall of Famer Bill Walsh. He's coached 149 regular season games. Walsh, 152 over that span. Again, a lot of success during his tenure as the head coach of the Los Angeles Rams. The tree, this is an outdated graphic. I'll have an updated one on the next slide. But just so you can see some of the current head coaches, some of the current names that just pop off the page at you that have come up through the Sean McVay ranks? Plenty of names that stick out, right? Matt LaFleur, of course, Zach Taylor, Kevin O'Connell, perhaps most notably. There's a bunch of them. You want the updated graphic? Here you go. Literally 4 current NFL head coaches. And maybe, just maybe, he'll have one or two more after this hiring cycle in the coming weeks. Kevin O'Connell in Minnesota, Liam Cohen turned around Jacksonville in under a year. Could very well have had that game earlier today at home. Instead, Buffalo steals one, and they're on to the divisional round. There is really no excuse for Josh Allen and the Bills at this point, given how wide open the AFC playoff picture looks. Matt LaFleur, of course, perhaps his seat is hot in Green Bay, but he's had a lot of success there over the years. And, of course, Zach Taylor, keeping his entire staff intact after a very disappointing season in Cincinnati. But again, I think you get the point here. The Sean McVay tree, you can call it glazing all you want. Matter of fact, George Kittle suffered a torn Achilles in the game. That's a big blow for San Francisco. So 49ers star tight end George Kittle suffered a torn Achilles. That is a massive setback for San Francisco moving forward into the postseason. That just popped up in my peripheral, caught it. But point is, the Sean McVay tree is legit, which is why when you see reports like these from Albert Breer, it's intriguing. It's exciting. There's a couple different interview requests, according to Albert, that have been out there on the table, perhaps since yesterday's game went final, that the Ravens have pursued. One, like I said, with Nate Scheelhaase, and the other with Chris Shula. So let's learn about these dudes. First, beginning with Nate Scheelhaase. Again, a former successful college quarterback at the University of Illinois. He is 35 years old. He began his coaching career in football operations at his alma mater, Illinois. He then became the running backs coach there, then the offensive assistant, and then shifted gears and moved over to Iowa State, where he was the running backs coach, promoted to then the wide receivers coach, then the running game coordinator, and the running backs and wide receivers coach at the same time in 21 and 22. So I'd imagine he knows Charlie Kohler pretty well as a former Hawkeye, or excuse me, Cyclone, right? I always confuse the two Iowa schools, but it's a Cyclone. So had a lot of experience within the staff at Iowa State. And in 2023, that was his lone season calling offensive plays and serving as quarterbacks coach. That caught the attention of McVay, who brought him to the Rams in 24 to serve as an offensive assistant and passing game specialist. And then again, he was promoted to pass game coordinator, and he just finished up his first regular season in that role. And then, of course, they're moving on. So he's going to have some postseason experience. And the Ravens will have to be very mindful in terms of when and how they interview him throughout this process. So this is one of those young guns, right? And when you think about the McVay tree and this next potential step in the evolution of it, does somebody like Nate, if Chris Shula, who's the defensive coordinator, a little bit older, a little bit more experienced, do they end up kind of becoming conjoined at the hip? Should Chris get a legitimate look this offseason, this hiring cycle as a head coach? And does Nate become a first-time NFL play caller with Chris, wherever Chris lands, should he land somewhere? You see where I'm going with this? Like that's sort of the exercises that you have in terms of trying to predict and foresee how this process moves forward. As far as what he's been up to of late, this is not his first hiring cycle where he's garnered interest. Peter Schrager noting that just last year, he was interviewed. Let's see. He interviewed with Jacksonville and Tampa Bay last year for their vacant offensive coordinator jobs. And again, he's 35. Now, what's interesting about the Sean McVay tree is the Rams could very well be in a position where all three of these guys, and I haven't even mentioned Mike LaFleur, brother of Matt, who again is the Packers head coach. Mike calls the offensive plays for Sean McVay. He's garnering interest as well. And he talked about the Ravens earlier this year prior to their matchup in Baltimore. Here is Mike LaFleur.
I know is every time I've gone to Baltimore, it hasn't been a success. I've never won there. That's a tough place to play. These guys got a lot of pride, and I mean, let's keep it real. They had quite a few injuries, going into last week. You watch that week one and what these guys can do and what they've historically done, in the last few years, and then, obviously over the last probably 3 decades. It's one of the best defenses. They have a lot of pride. They're coached extremely well. We're going to get their best shot, and we know that.
When you're facing a team that has a lot of injuries, like the 49ers did last week,
Sure.
just how do you prevent that from creeping into your players' minds?
Yeah, this is the NFL. I mean, you got to every week is going to be a dogfight, So, guys, organizations, units, they got too much pride, too much respect for this game. So, our guys, they got to go into it every week like this is the toughest opponent you're going to play, because it is. Every Sunday is so hard. So, that's not going to be a problem for our guys.
Just wanted to play that from earlier in the season. He's not a candidate, at least I haven't seen any reports. By the way, Odafe Owe just recorded a postseason sack. So his resurrection, his reinvigorated self continues to ball out post-trade deadline under Jesse Minter and Jim Harbaugh and the Chargers. But that's neither here nor there, not to open a wound and then twist the knife. But look, the point is this entire staff is being looked at. Mike has different leads out there. He's been asked to interview for head coaching positions in Vegas and in Arizona. I love the live chat led by Evan and company reacting accordingly tonight, saying that Saleh is a bum and LaFleur blood doesn't have any winning in it. Right on cue, guys, right on cue. And I'll just kind of ignore that so that I can keep my sanity intact. How about Chris Shula, defensive coordinator? You talk about football blood. If I see anything about his football blood in here, I'm just going to ask you to leave and take a couple laps. He's the grandson of the great Don Shula. He's been defensive coordinator in Los Angeles under Sean McVay the last couple of years. Prior to that, he was the pass rush coordinator. I think I know who might be able to help in Baltimore in that department. I got a lot of respect for Dr. Rush, but he may have to move aside after this season. The pass rush coordinator and linebackers coach in LA in 23 was Chris Shula. Prior to that, he was the pass game coordinator and defensive backs coach. So a wide array, right? A whole full spectrum of experience. Jeff Zaribek, by the way, just noting here shortly, he says, we'll see about Chargers defensive coordinator Jesse Minter tonight. Otherwise, many of the candidates that the Ravens are waiting to interview for their head coaching vacancy were part of wins this weekend. That obviously will complicate interview scheduling this week, which I've kind of noted a couple times throughout the course of this show. Listen to Chris Shula. When you grow up in the family that he did, obviously it can be easy to maybe be labeled as the guy that's just like nepotism, but he wants nothing to do with that. And I like his self-awareness. Listen to this.
Stories you hear about my grandpa, and just like you said, it wasn't like I was living in Cincinnati when my grandpa retired from the Dolphins. But all this, you just hear so many stories of some of the former players that go back and how tough he was on them. And then it's like you go back and they just, the relationship that he had with them, because they knew, he had their best in mind. And I think it's just the accountability that he put on himself to try to get them to play their best. The discipline of how you go about your daily process. And my dad's a routine-oriented guy, and I'd like to think I'm the same way. You come up with a plan for the day, you execute that plan to the best of your ability, and you move on to that next day. When I was a young coach, I was almost a little embarrassed about, because I didn't want people to think, I got into certain positions because of the last name. So I think that was some of the motivation. I always had a little chip on my shoulder, to kind of work extra hard to show that, I earned whatever role I got or whatever. It's kind of evolved into something where now it's like it's so cool to, where you go and travel around and play different games and see different coaches or, different people that work in media and stuff like that dealt with my grandpa, and just all the nice things that they say and the stories that they tell and all that type of stuff. And, so it's something that, initially it started out I was a little bit reluctant to kind of, I might not say my last name when I introduce myself, to now it's something I'm extremely proud of. And not only my my dad and my grandpa, but my uncle as well. And the character that they have, and the types of coaches that they were, and the types of human beings that they were.
I introduce you to Chris Shula. A little look there at some of his selflessness and what a defensive year it was in Los Angeles. I know. It helps that when, let's see, what week was it? Week 6 prior to the bye, you get a chance to beat the hell out of Cooper Rush and the beat up Ravens 17-3. Just an embarrassing home loss for the Ravens going into their bye week. But hey, that was not an aberration. His defense, in terms of scoring, allowed just 20.4 points per game throughout the entire season. They were balling out. And Chad Forbes has some context in terms of just how exceptional they were. Running elite defense with only 1 first-round pick selected by the Rams. 1. 2, most snaps on defense played by 2 free agents picked up on the cheap, turned mid and late round picks into a cohesive unit. And he says if you're a team paying your quarterback big money, that'll be the Ravens. Hopefully after an offseason, that season extension, a record-setting kind of mega deal yet again for Lamar Jackson. Chad Forbes, NFL draft analyst, says Shula is ideal. Okay, there you have it. So the McVay tree, I give you a couple new candidates that the Ravens could potentially be interested in. And oh, sweet Canva. Oh, sweet Jesus Canva, how much more capacity do you have? Because guess what? This list doesn't even include Jesse Minter. Go ahead and vote in the poll, by the way. You know I love a good poll. That's POLL. Just 327 votes and counting, except there's over 1,000 people in here combined between the two platforms. The poll's already started, Way2V. Where you at? And 65% of you say, yes, I am intrigued by the Sean McVay tree coming to Baltimore. 35% of you say no. Well, guess what? I got a rule. If you say no, you got to call in and tell me why. What isn't intriguing about the Sean McVay tree? And while I'm at it, what isn't intriguing about Robert Saleh getting a second opportunity? Huh? What is it? Guest lines are open. But first, Jimmy Smith, the great number 22, who was kind enough to join me on Friday. He had this to say about his former position coach, Jesse Minter, who you get to watch tonight under the primetime lights in New England. And yeah, you're right. You go vote no, you call your ass in and tell me why. Jimmy, on Jesse.
Jesse's a great coach. He's very, let's say, very Michael McDonald-ish in the sense that they both came in assistants, and those are the guys that, before games, you're like, hey, give me a couple extra nuggets, because those guys study the game so well, and they know, and they prepare very well. So I feel like with Jesse, I'm not going to call him Mike McDonald, obviously, but that's kind of the mold I would see him in. Like, he's a defensive-minded guy. He was our DB coach and has respect of the players and communicate with us. When he used to run the meetings, when he used to do his time doing the meetings back then, it was like he did a great job. So he's not a person that's like scared to speak up and all that. So I've been watching his career since he left us and watching him at Vanderbilt, and he's been doing a good job. But that you just never know. Like I said, it's hard to know what the Ravens are, because the like I said, the guy Davis Webb, I'd never thought, who was that? Who was that guy? And then it's like, oh, okay. They obviously, have a different thought process than we do as fans, and they are looking at different stuff. But it seems like by the list that we're going offensive minded. It just feels like that.
Not so fast yet, Jimmy. It may feel like that, and maybe he's a little bit in the know more so than I am. Wouldn't be surprised by that. But hold on now. I see a lot of defensive-minded head coaches. I see some leaders on this graphic. I also see a graphic that is dying for any kind of oxygen to breathe because it's jam-packed. Guys, we're at 12 candidates, and a good chunk of these candidates are still in the postseason for their respective organizations. The Rams moving on to the divisional round. Kevin Stefanski, a free agent. Buffalo, Joe Brady, moving on to the divisional round. Cliff Kingsbury, free agent. Matt Nagy, Kansas City's out of the postseason. Clint Kubiak, very much in the conversation. Chilling on a first-round bye after wrapping up the number 1 seed. Anthony Weaver, free agent. Robert Saleh. Oh, Mr. Saleh. He's moving on indeed. Yes, he is. On to the divisional round with a masterpiece tonight. It was a compelling case, wasn't it, tonight from Robert Saleh? Evan, don't you think so? Wasn't it? My Stephen A impression. Don't you think so? Yes, it was. Yes, it was. Robert Saleh deserves a look. You're damn right he does. Don't you think, Trey? You're coming on here in a second. Same thing with Richard. Give him a look. And if you don't think so in the live chat, call your ass in. Did you see what Robert did tonight? He balled out. Yes, he did. Where was I in the graphic? Brian Flores, free agent, expiring contract. I was going to say, no, he's on staff. He's on salary for the moment, maybe on payroll, but expiring contract. Vance Joseph, on the buy, Denver. Davis Webb, on the buy, Denver. Still a lot to play for among the 12. And again, this graphic does not include Mr. Jesse Minter. Dark Thunder 35. If you're going to go after my forehead, at least put yours on full display and call your ass in. To the guest lines we go. Appreciate you guys for being with me tonight. Over 1,200 concurrents and counting on Super Wild Card Weekend Sunday. The Chargers trying to punch one in here with just over 8 minutes left to go. Excuse me. It's across the hall. I can't actually see the TV. The Patriots are beginning their drive deep in their own territory with just over 8 minutes to go in a scoreless game. First quarter in Foxborough. What more could you possibly want? Trey, talk to me, baby. What's going on? Talk to me about Robert Saleh, Trey, will you? Mr. Columbus.
You got me. I was 100% against Robert Saleh, so you got me this week, just like I got you on the one. It happens. I get it.
What happened?
Now, Jesse Minter, though.
Okay.
I'm a huge fan of. I am a huge fan of Jesse Minter.
That's interception. Came up with that football. Okay, hold on a second. The Chargers just turned Drake May over deep in their own red zone. Deep in their own territory. Here's what Jim Harbaugh had to say about the former Ravens assistant, who's now his defensive coordinator. Listen to this, Trey, in real time, baby. This is what we call broadcasting.
Let's go.
Really everything. All the things. Tremendous knowledge of the game. Great team. Teammate. I mean, I can just, just works so well with, the general manager, head coach relationship is going to be tremendous with him. That's really important. Just his ability to motivate, just all aspects, teacher, and it's always about the team. There's no ego there. Self-promoting. I think that's really important in the team environment. But check every box. You got a box to check? Check it. Check it with Jesse. I know I've said that many times, and he said several have reached out, interview requests. So no surprise.
And again, you'd expect the Ravens to be one of those after this game, and a big turnover there by Jesse Minter's defense. There goes Justin Herbert trying to punch in. He stopped at the 3 or 4. And some interesting, before I let you get in here, Trey, some interesting real-time just context from Jeff as the week starts to take shape here. Any coach whose team played in this weekend's wild card round can do virtual interviews with teams 3 days after their wild card game. So Ravens couldn't speak to Saleh until Wednesday. You could put Jesse Minter in that category as well. They can talk to the Rams assistants. They played Saturday on Tuesday. So that would be Chris Shula. That would be Nate Shieldhouse, who we spoke about at the beginning of tonight's live stream. So just to give a little bit of context there. It's good to see you, brother. What's going on tonight?
Hey, man. Just been watching Wild Card Weekend. A little bit stress-free as a fan. Not really, having too much of a heart attack watching us play. So it's fine. So it's not too bad. But really in the side of just like scouting, like in the sense of right now, I'm just looking at the potential coaches, potential opportunities. How do players respond to the coaches? I just kind of I loved everything I saw from Robert Saleh. So I have to be honest. What I saw, I saw that game with a skeleton crew, pretty much. And Kendricks, a guy that we were supposed to sign, by the way, just balling out, coming off the street. Nobody talks about that. Oh, that was risky. That was stupid.
Did
But
they just go for it on fourth down?
yes, they did. Yes, they did. That was pretty.
Chargers turnover on down. So New England stands tall in the red zone. Unbelievable. So they're just kind of going back and forth, trading possessions here, and now New England's basically back where it just was a few minutes ago. So that's crazy.
Yeah. So, like I was saying, though, I really feel like it's what it's going to come down to. Is obviously we got next week. You're going to see Clint versus Robert, and then tonight. I mean, if Jesse continues with this type of tear on, because honestly, watching this game, I'm already watching how Drake May's looking confused out there of what everything Jesse's already throwing out there. He's had 2 completions, I believe. If you can look at the stats, I don't have them up on my screen, but outside of that, it just looks like he's kind of struggling to find anybody open, and that was one thing that we struggled on with Drake May on defense, and we couldn't do nothing. And it's just it's going to be a big thing. I'm really looking at how the players respond, how the players are continue consistency and the effort that they put in. Robert Saleh's defense showed all of that this game, though, the game before. So I have to give credit where it's due.
Enjoy it, and we're going to get a good look at just what happens to Pittsburgh. They might be the next opening in 24 hours right now if Houston can win 10 straight games. So good stuff, brother. Enjoy the stress-free football for once.
Yeah, for once. I can say that.
Later, man. Thanks,
all right,
Trey.
I'll see you.
Mr. Columbus on his way out on a Sunday evening, super wild card weekend. We're up to 12. The Ravens are, not we. The Ravens are up to 12 reported, some of which have been confirmed candidates for their next head coach. Just the 4th in franchise history over a 30-year span. The 2 new ones since the last time we were live late Friday night. As you see in the upper left-hand corner, a couple of Sean McVay's assistants in Los Angeles. That's Chris Shula, defensive coordinator, and, of course, Nate Scheelhaus, very young, up-and-coming offensive mind, a former quarterback at Illinois. He is currently under Sean as the pass game coordinator for the Rams. So this is your list, and several of these interviews have been completed. Both of Denver's assistants completed. Matt Nagy's was today, completed by the Ravens. Clint Kubiak, completed. I believe Anthony Weaver is scheduled for tomorrow. Kingsbury, I would think, is at some point this coming week. And then, like we just talked about with Jeff, a couple of these coaches can't be spoken to or interviewed until 3 days after. So the Rams played yesterday. That means they're eligible to be spoken to on Tuesday. And then, like we just heard, anybody who played today won't be available until Wednesday. So that's what's going on right now in terms of this search. That is, you talk about casting a wide net. I feel like that was the phrase that we used, a few years ago to refer to the Ravens search for Greg Roman's successor. And there go the Patriots. Look out. Big chunk play. And they are deep, not deep into Chargers territory, but across midfield. Big play there from New England. Richard, you ready to roll? Guest lines are open. I do want you to continue to vote in the poll if you could. Our vote count is over 400. And my question to you tonight is, are you intrigued by the Sean McVay tree coming to Baltimore? What do I mean by that? A couple Rams assistants. The track record of the Sean McVay tree is certainly proven. It is compelling. And there's a bunch of head coach in this league right now actively who are serving as head coaches that came up under the ranks of Sean McVay. Richard, what are you thinking on Wild Card Weekend, brother? Welcome back to the program.
Hey, Bobby. As far as the McVay tree, I don't know how anyone would say no to that. I'm not sure about I'm 50-50 about the Rams defense, but the fact of the matter is you have you pick up a litter as far as offensive coordinator is concerned. So you really, it will be really hard to go wrong going down that path. I do want to address one thing, though, because I know a lot of people are talking about retreads and are saying we don't want somebody who has a bad record and whatnot. I would just, when we talk about Andy Reid and whatnot, his tenure in Philadelphia and now in KC. But I would like to focus on somebody who was in the league, up until fairly recently, who had a lot of success. Bill Belichick. A lot of people are here, I think, are too damn young to remember the fact that he used to be head coach for the Cleveland Browns for 4 or 5 years, and he had one winning season, one fucking winning season, and now he's considered one of the best head coaches in the NFL. So I don't like the word retread. I think the word should be seasoned. It should not carry a negative connotation at all. I think based on the candidates I've seen that the Ravens have been focusing on, they're focusing on the right people, in my opinion. For me, as I would still say that Brian Flores is probably number one on my list, just because I think he can have a Mike Vrabel kind of effect. I mean, they come from the same damn tree for crying out loud.
Just to be clear, to ease the minds of the live chat, you're not suggesting Bill Belichick. You're just making a comment on the whole retread narrative, correct?
Yes, I'm not saying Bill Belichick. He's 75 years old. What the hell?
Right. You know what's
he's going to have like 1 year as a head coach, and he's going to retire.
He just brought in another 70-plus-year-old, or damn near close to it, in Bobby Petrino to be his offensive coordinator, who coached Lamar at Louisville. So it's like a retirement home. I mean this respectfully. It's like a retirement home down in Chapel Hill right now. So no, I just wanted to be clear, because some in the live chat were thinking that you were suggesting him as a candidate, when really you were just talking about, hey, listen, let's put some respect on this whole retread narrative that sometimes can get way, way too overblown.
And like it's not even the retread narrative. It is the winning record of that team in their first tenure. Like I said, Bill Belichick had one winning season in 4 years with the Cleveland Browns. And this is, mind you, before they moved over to Baltimore. So this is not the Cleveland Browns of what you guys are imagining today. This is the previous organization under Art Modell. So just remember that part. Not every coach is going to have a winning season. It does have to do a lot with the players that you have. But the fact of the matter is, you put the right coach who has the right connections with the right owner, right organization, and the right roster. That is a dynasty in the making. So just keep that in mind.
Thanks for the call tonight, brother.
Yep.
Appreciate you. Richard, with a little bit of good context on where he's at. Ryan John's prediction is the next head coach will be a minority. Robert Saleh would technically fit that mold. And remember, there is Rooney rules in effect when there is a head coach search for an NFL team. So keep that in mind in terms of how the Ravens go about this process. Ryan's prediction is that it will be a minority head coach. Let's get a quick read in here from ZipRecruiter before we continue the conversation and talk about somebody who was interviewed earlier today by the Ravens organization. And ZipRecruiter's been on with us all month long, and what a time to come support the program, because this is as hot as you will ever be in a month with no postseason for a team that is typically a perennial contender. If you're hiring for your company, it's a busy time of year. We've all got new 2026 goals, and that means finding the right people to accomplish them. You also have new hiring challenges that come along for 2026, like filling specialized roles or identifying quality candidates from a huge pool of applicants. Lucky for you, there's a place that you can go to help you conquer these challenges and achieve your hiring goals, and that is ZipRecruiter. Right now, you can try it for free by visiting ZipRecruiter.com/audio. You can see it right now up on the screen via the screen share tool. Everything you could possibly want. Job seekers, go ahead and click that and toggle through it. You can search jobs, salaries, job seeker reviews. Download the app for more. Small and medium business owners, this is for you. Enterprise businesses, as follows. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day, and you can see for yourself by visiting our show notes or typing into a search box, ZipRecruiter.com/audio, and you can try it for free today. It's the smartest way to hire. Both the Vault and the Bobby Baltimore channel. Thrilled to be working with ZipRecruiter this month, and thrilled to be with you guys on a late Sunday evening. Sarah will return tomorrow for the first time in a week, and for the first time since, of course, the John Harbaugh dismissal news came down just after 5 o'clock on Tuesday evening. Sarah was on a pre-scheduled vacation in the tropics and showed a generational amount of restraint to actually stay offline for the most part. Salute to her. We'll begin with her thoughts on the week that was as we begin tomorrow's show, and then get into anything and everything that you need to hear about related to the Ravens search process. Rex Ryan, former Ravens coach, that is, certainly made some headlines, turned some heads when he had this to say on ESPN yesterday prior to the Saturday Super Wild Card Round weekend games.
Really interesting. I mean, obviously, you've got a Hall of Fame quarterback and a Hall of Fame running back to build your offense around, but it's that defense. Like, this has a historic defense.
Yeah.
They got to get back to being that kind of defense if they're going to be championship caliber. I think that's what let this team down.
No
Look,
question.
I thought Todd Monken did an outstanding job with this offense. So, and you're going to bring in an offensive-minded coach? I don't think that's necessary. I think you have to bring in a leader. Number one, he's replacing, all right, in my opinion, the best coach in the National Football League in John Harbaugh. And we see the difference a great coach makes. I want to get to Harbaugh for a second. Okay? Because, look, great coaches come in. Mike Vrabel came in. How did New England look this year? Pretty damn good. How about Ben Johnson? You can see the difference of a great coach.
Yes.
Well, this coach is that and then some. So whoever gets John Harbaugh, look out, NFL. Look out. If you're a team, you're hoping he doesn't be in your conference, your division.
Never change, Rex refers to John Harbaugh as the best coach in the NFL. And Rex Ryan, one thing he is not is underwhelming on television. That's for sure. He also tends to be a little bit all over the place. I'm old enough to remember. Throw that up on the Crutch Phrase bulletin board wherever you are, Chef. I'm old enough to remember him referring to Mike McDonald as the hot shot young defensive coordinator after a slow start to the 2022 season. How'd that work out for Mike Mack? Pretty darn well, including his sophomore season in 2023, which was good enough defensively in Baltimore to literally be sought after by like a quarter of the league that hiring cycle. And of course, he winds up with the Seattle Seahawks. As for interviews that have been completed, as we get back to the Ravens search, Matt Nagy is one of them. Matt is currently under Andy Reid in Kansas City. He served as the offensive coordinator in 2023. And I hate to do this to him because there's a lot more to analyze and learn about Matt. He would certainly be a retread, right? Or as Richard called it, a seasoned candidate, having been a previous head coach earlier on in his career for the Chicago Bears. He was above 500, by the way, 34-31 during his years in Chicago, 0-2 in the postseason. And he was there from 2018 to 2021. So a decent amount of regular season success, none in the postseason. And it's hard to not sit here and be like, wow, he's been in Kansas City since 2023. Look at the numbers. And I know this is just simple statistics and there's more to actually dig into. But Kansas City's offense in recent seasons, really the last two, and I get it. Well, aside from this year, they weren't a postseason contender, but they certainly have been in years past under Nagy. But there's also been a downward spiral, right? This trajectory is not south to north. It is north to south right now. And I find that a little bit discouraging about his candidacy. But they're going to cast a wide net. They've completed their interview with Matt, one of a few, and he's got a ton of experience. He's 47. He'll turn 48 in April. Wants another opportunity. A former quarterback at Delaware. He was undrafted in 2001. Played in a bunch of different leagues, including part of 2009 with the Philadelphia Eagles. And his coaching career began at actually a high school in Pennsylvania in 2001. So he's been in the game a very long time. The Ravens are going to give him a look, and we'll see what comes of it, if anything. Another head coach interview that's been conducted and finalized is Kevin Stefanski. He was fired on Monday by Cleveland. He's a sought-after candidate. And maybe this is one of the reasons why. So 6 seasons in Cleveland. And as Bill Barnwell notes, while he was below 500 overall, He was 45 and 56. He did make 2 playoff appearances and 1 playoff win. And when you compare that to the other 11 Browns coaches who preceded him, they had a record of 101 and 234, 1 combined playoff appearance, and no playoff wins. I get it. It's one statistic. But the fact that he had to work with 13 different quarterbacks over 6 seasons, including the Deshaun Watson nut job psycho decision that his owner made, I got to give him a lot of credit. I think he deserves another chance. I don't think it's going to be in Baltimore, but certainly somebody that you can't hurt from bringing. It doesn't hurt you to bring him in and have a conversation with the guy. I think that's what we shouldn't lose sight in that. Conducting an interview, what's wrong with conducting an interview? You're compiling as much information as you can about your team, and who knows what you learn when a candidate comes in who's polished and prepared and who's analyzed you, maybe even micro-analyzed you. I think there's a lot to like about the idea of bringing in multiple candidates and almost doing like an analysis, a self-assessment, if you will. So Kevin Stefanski, one of a few, completed interviews. The other, Clint Kubiak. He's got a bunch of different requests. Teams have to hop on this immediately because Seattle's been on spy. So the Seahawks will, it's going to be a hell of a game, by the way, coming up next weekend. But with them being on their first round bye, Clint was highly sought after in recent days. 5 interview requests. The Ravens were one of them. And you can't help but listen to Cooper Kupp rave about him and not get excited if you're a Ravens fan.
Just love him. You want to play for guys like Clint. Humility is one thing I think is one of his special traits. He leans on guys, but obviously he's a very smart ball coach. Understands a lot about this game, but his humility to be able to talk to guys and maybe see like, hey, there's something that I'm asking someone to do. Maybe they can't do it for some reason, and maybe there's a better way to do it. And his openness to be able to talk to players and to the coaches that he has around him and to delegate and be able to grab everyone's best traits and bring them all to the forefront, I think he does a great job of that. So, I think he'll be great. Hopefully he's here. But I guess you want everyone to be able to ascend and go do whatever they want to do. So, but he'll be great wherever he is.
The former Super Bowl MVP, of course, his words carry weight, and that was pretty good stuff there on Clint Kubiak, who, of course, is under Mike Macdonald, just finished up his first season as the offensive play caller in Seattle. And while they were about defense this year, they will compete for a title and need just 2 wins to go to San Francisco several weeks from now and play in Super Bowl 60. So there's a lot to like about him. And, of course, from a Ravens perspective, there's a lot of familiarity, being that Gary, his father, was the offensive coordinator in 2014, a very successful season that ended up giving him an opportunity to be the Denver Broncos head coach. And then Clint ended up serving under his father for a while as a member of the Broncos coaching staff. Richard writes, respectfully, Matt Nagy is the wrong coach to poach under Andy Reid, who we just spoke about a short while ago. Richard making his thoughts known related to Matt Nagy. I already had this out there as it relates to Kevin Stefanski and his goodbye message, a classy one at that. And that brings us to another coaching candidate that's been finalized. It's Vance Joseph. Hell of a scoring defense. The fewest points allowed, Seattle, of course, Mike Macdonald and company. Houston was a second, close second. And Denver, 311 points allowed, the 3rd fewest under the tutelage of Vance Joseph, who has previous head coach experience, and they balled out this year. All 3 levels has dogs on that Denver defense, and he's someone that the Ravens have already looked at and conducted an interview with. Same can be said with another member of that staff on the offensive side of the ball, a young gun in Davis Webb, a former NFL quarterback, a former collegiate quarterback. He played under Cliff Kingsbury at Texas Tech. He's had a lot of different interest from various teams, and he is just 30. Count it, 30 years old. He'll turn 31. He's younger than me. He'll turn 31 later this month. So that right now are your 4 candidates that the Ravens have interviewed. Matt Nagy, Vance Joseph, Davis Webb, and Clint Kubiak. There's a bunch of requests out there. They have to follow the rules in terms of the whole calendar with teams that are still in the postseason. They will, and that's where things stand at the moment. T. Martin has been Lamar Jackson's quarterback's coach in recent years. He's a former college quarterback himself, won a BCS title, by the way, as a member of Tennessee years ago. And Detroit is looking at him for their open offensive coordinator position. This tweet was put out before Washington hired David Blau. So it's this Detroit right now that's going to give T. Martin a look to be Dan Campbell's play caller. But obviously, these two have a level of rapport that makes you wonder if Lamar wants to keep him around. Does Lamar have the kind of cachet to be like, hey, depending on who y'all pick for your next head coach, I'd like T to have a shot at calling plays. Now, he doesn't have any offensive play calling experience at the national level, at the National Football League level, but he does at the collegiate level. So just keep that in mind. That was something that took place on Friday as it relates to Ravens quarterbacks coach T. Martin. The rest of the candidates, we had it up on the screen a little bit earlier. I'll cut back to that, and then we'll get back to the guest lines. There they are, all 12. This does not include Jesse Minter, who is coaching tonight for the Los Angeles Chargers. He's a former Ravens assistant. He's the defensive coordinator under Jim Harbaugh, and it would not surprise me if that interview slip gets requested not long after this game is over, and then it'll be 3 days. It'll be Wednesday until they can actually speak to him. So that's that. Back to the guest lines we go. Maurice is ready to roll. Rave is down in the waiting room as well. I appreciate you guys for being with me tonight. Over 1,600 concurrents and counting. Sarah is back tomorrow. The Vault regularly scheduled program will resume at 12 noon Eastern, as it always does. Maurice, what's on your mind tonight as the carousel continues, brother?
All right. Well, truth be told, for the last several days, I've been having, thoughts about possibly hiring Robert Saleh as a head coach. Now, I got to be honest, at first I was a little uncertain about that idea, but after looking at his credentials and his coaching history, where it all started, he actually started his coaching career in 2002 as a offensive assistant for Michigan State. And then fast forward up until 2005, he got his first big break with the Houston Texans when he was, at one point, he was their defensive intern. And he was also a part of the Seattle Seahawks team that won Super Bowl 48 as a defensive quality control coach. So, truth be told, he's another one of those guys we could possibly take a chance on. And with Robert Saleh, he's still relatively young from a coach perspective. He'll be turning 47 in January, another defensive-minded head coach. And I genuinely believe it's what this organization needs, is a defensive-minded head coach. Now, think about this. If we took a chance on a offensive-minded coach in Brian Billick, and if we took a chance on a special teams coach in John Harbaugh, question is, what harm would it do if we took a chance on a defensive-minded 46-year-old head coach, which I genuinely believe it would do a whole lot of wonders for this team. Because let's be honest, it's like this Ravens defense have been missing a whole lot of backbone since the departure of Ray Lewis and Terrell Suggs, Ed Reed, and those guys. So, like, if we bring that same backbone back to this defense, if I got to be honest, this defense can only go so far. They can go as far as they want to go. So after several days of, pretty much thinking about it, I am all open to the idea of giving Robert Saleh a chance to coach this team. It's like, maybe it's for the better, but that's my honest opinion on it.
About damn time. Appreciate you, Maurice. Thank you, brother. I have been on the Robert Saleh train. I know. I've been on it for a while. I'm very intrigued by him as a candidate. You know what San Francisco's defense did tonight, guys? San Francisco as a team created takeaways. And that is something that winning postseason teams do. That is something that Baltimore, all throughout the Lamar era this month, has not done consistently. And until they do that, until they have a coach that brings that out in them, they're not going to go far. And they're going to put Lamar and the offense in a terrible, terrible position for razor-thin margin of error. That's what they need. So San Francisco's defense balled out tonight. beat Philadelphia, sent them home into an offseason of, I'm sure, turmoil. Philadelphia sports radio will be absolutely must listen tomorrow. And again, given the personnel, remember, Robert Saleh did this tonight, and his team did it tonight without Bosa up front, without Fred Warner in the middle. Big time stuff. Say what you want about the Eagles offense. They were in a position to host a home wild card game for a reason, and they're the reigning Super Bowl champions for a reason. Bring Robert Saleh in, have a conversation. They're going to have a chance to do that coming up next week. Oh, I got to remind myself on the pronunciation. Is it safe?
It's safe.
All right,
Yeah.
brother. Safe. What's going on, dude?
Man. Not much. I'm gonna try to make 3 quick points and bear with me on this. So I think you should have I think it's Ken McCusick of the Film Study Ravens podcast. He was making a pretty compelling case about maybe sticking with the CEO model of I mean, I'm not in favor of it, but it was, anytime he talks, I tend to listen because he's very precise and analytical with his arguments. So I think it's worth having a chat with him just to kind of, his reservations about this offensive play caller as a head coach model type thing.
Ken's fantastic. He's one of the best analytical minds in the community.
I mean, it can be hard because he's analytical. It can get a little dry listening to it, but it's definitely worth.
No doubt.
He makes a point. The other thing about Robert Saleh, I'm not necessarily in favor of having a defensive mastermind as the head coach. I'm leaning more towards offensive play calling, but there's a lot more nuance and color behind his firing from the Jets that not a lot of people pay attention to, which gets in. I mean, I hate involving like social stuff and political stuff in football. Like it's a release for people to concentrate on sports, but his firing, a lot of people are convinced because Woody Johnson has owned the Jets for 26 years. It's been a dumpster fire for pretty much the entirety of that time. Has never fired a head coach in the middle of a season. And Robert Saleh, at the time, the Jets were only 2-3. The season had just started. I think that was the season where Rodgers got hurt on the first drive, like he tore his Achilles. So the nuance there is Saleh showed up to the game sporting a Lebanese flag, like a lapel or something, on his attire. And Woody Johnson, the owner, is a former Trump administration ambassador, fiercely pro Israel. And at the time, there was like a bombing had just started in Beirut, and Saleh showing up wearing his native Lebanese flag was thought to not really go over well with ownership with Woody Johnson. So within 24 hours of that happening, it was where there were only, again, 5 games into the season where your quarterback had just gotten hurt, and it was still a pretty solid defense, and all of a sudden you just let go of the guy, and everybody was kind of scratching their heads like, why are you doing this? Like, he's a decent coach. So
I remember it well.
Just something to consider.
It was a part of a total dumpster fire media shitstorm that entire season in New York. So
right.
Ultimately, look, it's really hard to win in New York. Just ask Aaron Glenn about that. His defenses were still top notch throughout the majority of the time there, and I'm of the belief that I think he should get a hard look, and I think tonight was Exhibit A for why that's the case. I'm not talking.
It's the same thing that like maybe two callers ago.
I'm not talking about his sideline fired, like his fired demeanor on the sideline. I'm talking about the way that he coaches, what he gets out of his players, and what he did tonight against a Philadelphia team in an undermanned state. I thought it was impressive.
Yeah, I mean it's all in the same vein, and the guy was right. Like two callers ago, you had mentioned that Belichick coaching the Browns as they were gearing up to kind of leave and come to Baltimore. It's the same thing. He's like the ultimate example of a retread head coach.
Yeah.
He goes on to, become a Hall of Fame head coach in New England, but it was a complete shit show in Cleveland when he was head coach there. So, I mean, if you were a Patriots fan and getting on Robert Kraft's kid, why are you hiring this retread? And then not knowing that, there's nothing wrong with him. It was just the crappy situation he was stuck in. Like it gives you more nuance.
Thanks for the call, brother.
Decisions, Yeah.
Appreciate you, Safe.
Thank you, man.
Thanks, man. Good stuff. Good nuance. That's been the word of the weekend, certainly. The super chats come in from JL Green. What's going on, James? I like all the candidates, Bobby. Like you, I have positive vibes about Robert Saleh too. But let's be honest. We know the Ravens will be thorough. I think that's what you meant, right? Thorough? Yeah, here's the crazy thing. We could literally still be weeks out from a candidate being finalized. Not only because of the rules, but because of how thorough. And then, of course, you need in-person interviews too, on top of the initial Zoom calls. So this literally could get to championship weekend, guys. Like, I hope everybody's aware that this probably is just getting started, which is wild to think about because it's January 11th and we're already what? Today's Sunday. What are we in now? 5 days in? Ish. This could just be getting started. So buckle up. Thanks to Preston Automotive Group for the continued support of our program. My longest standing sponsor. And of course, if you're in the market for a new or pre-owned vehicle this year, I would love for you to go check out Preston. PrestonMotor.com, and there's a direct link in the show notes. You can also scan the QR code in the upper right-hand corner. There's a couple exclusive incentives, offers that are out there for the table for you. If you let them know I sent you, and you tell them you're a trosseteer, courtesy of Joe Jenkins, who coined that, they're going to give you a $500 credit towards a newer pre-owned vehicle of your choosing. And then on top of that, if you buy 4 tires with them, you'll get 50% off your alignment. You've got a ton of different vehicles to choose from. The live count right now in the available inventory section, nearing 4,000, 3,898. You can break it all down based on your preference. For those of you that are in the Maryland area, bunch of different locations, really all throughout the DMV. If you're not in the DMV, if you're not in Maryland, if you're not in Northern Virginia, if you're not on the Eastern Shore, if you're not in Delaware, that's fine. They'll ship across the country. You do not need to be in the Maryland area, and I would love for you to go check out Preston. Here are all the different dealerships. My home location, I'm in the Baltimore area, is my friends over at Preston Ford West off of Liberty. So cars cost less with Preston. Get started today. You can visit PrestonMotor.com, scan the QR code, click the link that I have included in the top of my show notes, and get started with them. I appreciate their continued support very much. Rave, I can't tell if your camo's on or off and you keep getting in and out of the waiting room. Where are you at, brother? If you are with us, turn that sucking thing on. Pause on that one. Welcome to the program, Mr. Rave Kingdom, as the search process now reaches 12 total candidates. It's good to see you, pal.
Yeah, so I had to address this because I've been hearing it around social media and a little bit on your channel too. Let's stop this. It's only 2 people. I think the chat can agree with me. Flores or Clint Kubiak. Simple as that. All these other people, that's cool. Let's talk to them. Yeah, but that's fine. Oh, we just got rid of John Harbaugh. Why would we get Stefanski? That's another egotistical head coach. That makes no sense to get Stefanski. No sense. I don't care if there's no care about, he's earned the right to get an interview. Who cares? Why would we go from one egotistical head coach to a whole another egotistical coach? Matt Nagy, stop. It's 2 people. It's 2 people
Why
that
are
the
you
fans.
narrowing it down? Why are you narrowing it down?
That's all we want. That's all we want. It's either Flores or Clint Kubiak. Simple as that. The rest of them, you're trash. All the rest of them suck. The rest of them either got an ego or got an issue. We don't want nobody walking in Baltimore having these weird mindset that always pisses us off. And we already had that with John Harbaugh for 18 years. We don't want another weird mental head coach. We're good, bro. We sailed. Steve Bisciotti said, we want a guy that's all in on Lamar Jackson. We want a guy that's finally going to come in here with a game plan. Let's do our thing, bro. If we're going to do that, it's Brian Flores or Clint Kubiak. Simple as that. They're systematic head coaches. They're humbled. They're offensive guys. They want to do what's best for the team, get the best out of them, and I think they're smart players, and the players are going to relate to these young guys. We already lost our young Mike McDonald. That hurts the Raven fans. I maybe sometimes the fans don't always agree with me, but there's one thing we can agree, that hurts that we lost Mike McDonald. So here we have a chance to get either Clint Kubiak or Brian Flores. We're going to get it done. That is the goal. These other guys like Matt Nagy and no, Anthony Weaver that used to be here in Baltimore. No, like don't do us like that. We're done. We want these two guys, man, and that's why I'm narrowed down to two people, bro. All that little these guys, man, like no, we're good, bro. I don't know.
Brother. Top two.
Sorry.
There it is. Appreciate you, Rave.
Two.
Top two. He's got his top two out there. Top two. If you're asking me who my top three is right now, back against the wall, clock running down, I'll go Minter, Saleh, I'll go Minter, Saleh, Weaver. Top three right now. In the early part of this process. Still could be weeks out. That's my top three for you. And again, things could change significantly, given other teams' decisions that could be coming here in the next day or so. Remember, the hidden piece of the puzzle in all of this is that Jesse could very well be in pole position in the stakeholders' eyes, and they just can't talk to him yet because he's coaching right now on Sunday Night Football. So, let's see what happens. I can't wait till Saleh gets his next opportunity wherever it ends up being. Screenshot all Evans chats tonight. I'm going to screenshot every last one of them. Screenshot every last one of those shits. Guys, join the Bobby Baltimore Discord server. It's a 24/7 hub for conversations surrounding Baltimore sports. It is free. We are nearing 1,200 members. When you do join, you get a free shout out. Let's see who's member number 1,144. That's Jason Gray. Jason, welcome to the program. Cree Bance, welcome to the program. Be More the Truth, welcome. I Am 90, Isabella, welcome. Posting the Discord free access link right now into the live chat. Would love for you guys to join. And let's get an update on the poll here, which I asked earlier on. I asked you guys. I just repinned the comment, by the way, if you'd like to join the Discord group. There's chatter about pretty much everything, including Bobby After Dark. Got a drunk text from a girl that I was seeing for a month or so on Friday night earlier in the fall. That was interesting. We're talking about in the Bobby After Dark chat. You can also talk football, baseball, Washington Capitals hockey, Maryland Terps across the board, athletics, you name it. It's good stuff. Hopefully you can join. Poll, update on the poll. Nearing 600 votes. Are you intrigued by the Sean McVay tree coming to Baltimore? 63% of you say yes. 37% of you say no. The reason why that poll is the case tonight is because a couple of Sean McVay's assistants, rumored to be and reportedly set to interview with the Ravens coming up this week. Defensive coordinator Chris Shula, pass game coordinator Nate Scheelhaus, former quarterback at the University of Illinois. And that is where we finish things off today. Appreciate you guys for being with me as always. Those of you that are in the waiting room, I am up against the clock and I got to get a 6 a.m. workout in. So I owe you one. Come on back tomorrow. We'll be live in the late afternoon. I look forward to seeing you guys then. Appreciate ZipRecruiter. Appreciate Preston Automotive Group for the continued support of the program. And thanks to all 1,700 plus of you joining me concurrently right now. I'll catch up with you tomorrow. Like the video on the way out. Subscribe. Hit that notification bell. Consider becoming a channel member or gift-giving membership. And ask me about my recent date with a 38-year-old in the Bobby After Dark section. And I'll leave you with that. Bye-bye now.